Oh man, today's gonna be good. Are you guys excited? Okay, I'm gonna start off by asking this amazing question. How many of you love the outdoors? Oh yeah. I mean, really, I wanna know, like, really love it. Like the hiking, trails, fresh air, all the things. Look, okay, that's amazing. Yeah, you ready to go? Thanks, okay, great. So keep your hands up if your version of loving the outdoors includes a clear path, good cell service, and 0% chance of being hunted by anything. Thank you, because that's me, okay? I love a controlled wilderness. This is gonna be fun. I love a predictable wilderness. A wilderness where I know that if I start on this path that I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna be able to find my car, right? And I'm gonna be able to not get lost, yes? So there was a time when I was much younger and I was trying to impress this man who is now my husband, yeah. And I thought it would be a great idea to go hiking with 3 guys who were all raised in cities. But this hike sounded so good, okay? So it was at this place called Robber's Cave. It has history. It's where all of the bandits that robbed trains used to hide out in the caves. They say that it has clear marked paths, all the things that I'm like, check, all the things are great. I can do this, yes? And everything was going great until one of the most dangerous sentences in human history was uttered. Hey, what if we just go off trail? And on the inside, I'm standing like, absolutely not. But, on the outside, yeah, I'm trying to be the cool girl, trying to impress him, yes, the easygoing one that doesn't ruin the fun. And so I say, yeah, let's do it, let's go. Which was such a mistake, like spiritual mistake, yes? And as soon as you can probably guess, we get off the trail, and guess what? We get lost. And not just like, hey, kind of lost, like lost for hours, yes. And yeah, I'm in the middle of nowhere. It's crazy. And so we come across this field, and they're like, hey, we're going to have to pass this field because we feel like the exit's on the other side of the field. Except the field has got grass this tall. Do you remember me saying that I love a controlled wilderness? Yeah. So guess what I do? I run as fast as I can through that because I think I'm like that crazy person that's like, you know, running with my knees up, right? And I'm like, if I can get through this field as fast as I can, then no ticks can get on me, no spiders, I won't get bit, right? All of the things. And then I finally get through it and I turn around and I see these 3 guys just walking through the field, moseying. And at that moment, reality set in. Yes. I was in the middle of nowhere with 3 guys who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And now it's beginning to get dark, and we are looking at the ground, I wish I was joking, and analyzing footprints to see if they're ours or if there's someone else's that we can follow out. I wish. Okay. And at this point, the cool girl, gone. Like, she doesn't exist anymore. I'm like full on freaking out, panicking. And I wish that I could tell you that at some point there was this epic ending to this journey. Like we used survival skills or we found the North Star to get out, but no. We actually came to a fork in the path and looked at each other and guessed. That's it. We could either go left or we could go right. There's no right or wrong here. We don't know. And I can only say that I am here standing before you today because the Lord loves me and knew that I could not survive a night in the wilderness, right? So we chose the right direction. And as we're walking, we start to see the most beautiful image of the cars in the distance. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could cry. And we get ourselves into the car, and all of a sudden this laughter starts to take place. You know that like amazing laughter that's a little part crazy because you're like, we almost died, but we survived, right? And it's this fun laughter because you're like, I'm not in it anymore, and it's fine. Yeah. But here's what I've learned. In the moment, being lost in the wilderness feels terrifying. It feels lonely, and it feels like there's no way out. But when you look back, you realize something's changed in me. You didn't come out the same. And here's the truth. The wilderness will always bring you to a why, a fork in the road, a decision point. Which direction will you choose? Because the wilderness doesn't just reveal where you are, it reveals how you think, what you believe, and who you trust. Oh, this is going to get so good. Okay, I made slides for those that didn't bring your Bible. No judgment. I just wanted to give you guys some pretty art as well, so here we go. If you have your Bibles, Galatians 4:22 through 26 is where we're going to start. Here we go. For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondwoman and the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born according to the flesh, and he of the free woman through promise, which things are symbolic. For there are two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai, which gives birth to bondage, which is Hagar. For this, Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and corresponds to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in the bondage with her children. But the Jerusalem above is free, which is the mother of us all. Here's the why. Here's the fork in the road. We have two different covenants represented. Two different women with two different mindsets that you and I actually choose between every single day. So on the left side, we have Hagar, who represents slavery, law, human striving, and trying to earn what only God can give. This path, this direction, is the voice that says, if it's going to happen, I have to make it happen. Because Sarah, instead of trusting God's promise, took matters into her own hands. She created a shortcut, a backup plan, a version of the promise without needing God to show up. And Hagar starts to represent this life. I have to earn it, I have to prove it, and I have to fix it. She represents the bondage of human effort and defines acceptance from God depends on performance. Maybe I should say that again. She defines acceptance from God depends on performance. And on the right side, I feel like I'm announcing a fight here. Dun, dun, dun. And on the right side, we have Sarah, representing promise, grace, and God's supernatural fulfillment. What God births cannot be manufactured by human strength. This path, this direction, is the voice that says, if God said it, He will do it. Now, I want to point something out. Despite Sarah looking at her natural circumstances and taking things into her own hands, despite not trusting the promises of God, despite her laughing at God, I just want to point that out. Laughing at God when he said, hey, I'm going to give you a child at your age. She laughed, giggled. Despite all of that, God still fulfilled the promise over her and her husband's life. Oh, man. Which means God's promise was never dependent on her performance. And it cancels out the equation, human effort and performance equals God's promise and acceptance. It cancels out human effort plus performance equals God's promise and acceptance. So now the why becomes personal. Do I trust what I can produce, or do I trust what God has promised? This story actually messes up our human equation. It messes up when we say, if I'm a good person, then God loves me. It messes up going to church on Sunday equals I'm a good Christian. Maybe I need to say that again. It messes up not going to church on Sunday makes me a good Christian. It messes up telling 3 people about Jesus equals I'm a good disciple. It messes all of that up. But Jesus' life and death on this earth caused a disruption, a holy disruption in our normal logic. It actually tore down works equals love. And to be honest, if we look at Sarah, she's doing all the should nots. But it's the things that I do on a regular basis. She doubts. Guess what? I probably did that yesterday. She loses hope in believing in the promises over her life, just like I do. She takes things into her own hands to produce what she wasn't seeing. I've never done that. And despite all of the things that she shouldn't have done, all the things that should have messed up that promise over her life, God still loved and blessed her. That right there breaks the equation. It breaks it. Because God's kingdom is upside down. What looks barren becomes fruitful. What looks delayed is developing. And what looks empty is actually just being prepared. Only in God's kingdom can you walk through a wilderness that looks and feels empty, delayed, overlooked, or even fruitless, and you mix it and fill it with my complaining, gesturing, and unbelief. And only He can turn it into one of the greatest victories of our lives. That doesn't just influence my life, but it influences generations to come. I mean, that's incredible. Okay. The math just doesn't math. It doesn't. Okay. Verse 27, here we go. For it is written, rejoice, O barren. This doesn't. I'm glad that someone's getting this. You who do not bear, break forth and shout, you who are not in labor. This does not make sense. For the desolate has many more children than she who has a husband. Rejoice, O barren. He said to rejoice. He didn't say fix it. He didn't say figure it out. He said rejoice. Rejoice in the unknown. Because you may not see it. You may not feel it. Whew. But something is growing. Come on. And then Paul writes, I love this. The desolate have many more children. Okay. I made the mistake of looking up desolate. And I'm just going to read you everything that the dictionary said. Are you ready? Okay, now if you need to hug yourself afterwards, it's fine, okay? Here we go. You might have to get prepared. Desolate is joyless, barren, lifeless, devoid of warmth, comfort, or hope, deserted, devastated, laid waste, and lonely. That's desolate. The desolate are the ones that are going to have more children. What the heck is Paul talking about? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't math right in my brain. But when you flip it into that upside down kingdom, you see that it starts to shine a little light on the story. So, no child, no visible proof, no evidence the promise was coming, and yet, underneath the desolate soil, underneath the loneliness, underneath the unbelief, deserted, lifeless, joyless existence, a covenant of an entire people group was growing and was about to be birthed through the impossible. I feel like some of you guys need to hear this because I don't know. Maybe you feel like you're barren. Maybe you feel like, hey, man, I'm behind. Or maybe you feel like, man, nothing is happening. But hear me on this. If you only write down one thing and get one thing from the sermon, please listen. I made a slide for it so that you could take pictures. Do not measure God's promise by your present emptiness. I think you need to really hear this. Do not measure God's promise by your present emptiness. For so long, what we feel is what we know. So when we feel empty, it's so easy to be like, God's not moving anymore. It's so easy to say he's not real. But don't judge your emptiness. Don't judge it. Whew. You guys still good? Okay. Moving on, verse 28 through 29. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are children of promise. But as he who was born according to the flesh then persecuted him who was born according to the Spirit, even so it is now. This is important to understand. The churches in Galatians were being pressured to return to the law. Paul is trying to tell them that they were born through promise, not performance. This is one of those wise moments. You can't judge them for because we're doing the same thing in 2026. A lot of us are making the same decisions that the Galatians did out of comfort and out of what makes life easier. I'm going to make a statement that's probably a little bit controversial, so love me anyways. Your walk with God can appear easier when you measure it by something like the law. Because at least you know where you stand. And it's something tangible. In the law, it's very evident that we are all sinners. And so what do? We have a certain animal that we sacrifice in a certain way, and that brings me back into right standing. It's so black and white. It's easy. But in the promise, that requires nothing. Nothing but belief and trust in God. That's it. A trust that knows you are loved by God without any kind of performance or sacrifice. That's not measurable. That doesn't make sense. I wanted to point that out because right now, trust is a very hot topic in our world. There's actually a ton of articles about how this next generation is redefining what trust is and who they put their trust in. One of the articles I read said trust is becoming something that you can see, measure, or verify. Trust has turned to self-reliance. And people are now more likely to trust what they can manage, what they can measure, and they believe in what they can influence. I believe the church is in a why moment. The world is saying to redefine trust in the tangible. Trust in the things that you can see. Trust in your own hands. And the case they're presenting to you makes sense. Because when you look all around, you're like, wow, yeah, there's corrupt governments. There's violence, there's wars. There's so much around us that is saying, hey, look, take the trust from out there and bring it into here because that's something you can trust because you can see it. I can trust myself because I've known myself for a really long time. I know what I can and cannot do. But then you add the wilderness season into it, sprinkle a little wilderness in there, like some of us feel like we're in currently. And that adds loneliness, tiredness, exhaustion, lack of hope to the mix. And you take a look at the right direction of the path, and you say, that looks like more unknown. You want me to trust and hope that you're going to do it? No. I can't do any more unknown. And then you look at the left side, and it's bright, and it's been traveled down so much that there's no grass that's as high as your hips. No. It looks really peaceful down that path. But here's the thing. The only thing that you have to do to go down that road and feel comfortable is allow someone else to carry your promise. But at least you get some kind of version of it in your timing. I don't know about you, but I don't think I can do that. I think about the promise that I had over me having kids because we had miscarriage after miscarriage trying to get pregnant. And so I think about that. If I didn't have hope, if I didn't have faith in the promises of God that were spoken over, I'm putting this into literal sense here. And I watched somebody else say, hey, here you go. I'll carry your promise. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great, but it's not really mine. But it's comfortable. I didn't have to go through the pain of trust. Okay. It's our decision. It's always been our decision. But the road of promise requires so little and so much at the same time. Especially when you compare it to the truth of the world. Because let's be real, control feels safer. Performance feels measurable. But promise Promise requires surrender. And that's not easy. What Reva was talking about at the end of worship, laying down our ideas, laying down the way we think things should be. We sing it, we declare it, but guys, I'm telling you, it's not easy. Okay. Verse 30 through 31. Are we still there? We're coming to an end. Here we go. Nevertheless, what does the scripture say? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free. Come on. Paul says, cast out that mindset. He's giving us the tools here. He says, don't manage it. Don't try to negotiate with it. Cast it out. This is making a choice to not even entertain turning trust into self-reliance. This means I don't entertain the lie that I have to earn God's love. I don't entertain the lie that my performance secures my promise. I don't entertain them. Because all of those thoughts, and I speak from full honesty, I've gone down this road multiple times. All of these roads lead to bondage and will eventually lead to burnout. All of them. And it says we weren't born into striving, we were born into freedom. We don't work for love, we live in it. But there's some really good news. It doesn't matter where you are on this journey. It doesn't matter if you're smack dab in the middle of picking up your promise in your own hands and trying to make it happen in the physical. It does not change God's love and grace over you. It doesn't take away the promises over your life. Because you aren't more powerful than God's blood. And you aren't more powerful than his death. And you aren't more powerful than his love. You can't earn it. You can't perform it. You don't deserve it. But that's his reality for you. Come on. You know, there's this thing where he says things are so simple that it dumbfounds the wise. This is one of those things. When you sit back and you realize, man, I've been living in performance to get acceptance and love by God. And it starts here in the church. I perform so that I can find community. I perform so that people can see me. And I can feel validated because people need me. If I just keep performing, then I create that amazing hole that only I can fulfill. Man, it's this great, beautiful idea. And then you realize, oh, I've taken this into my relationship with the Lord. I want to finish by reading a famous poem. And as I read this, my heart and prayer is that we become a church that takes the path less traveled, even if we're tired, even if it doesn't make sense. Let us be the light that shines down a different path, one that isn't filled with performance, one that isn't filled with self-reliance, but one that fully surrenders in and through God's unimaginable love. Because it won't just change you, it's going to change the generation after generation after generation. Because if you find your freedom in this, if you learn how to walk with God without having to perform, can you imagine what freedom that brings to the next generation after generation after generation? Could you imagine that's where people meet Jesus? Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood, and look down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and it wanted wear. Though as for the passing there, had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. And yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one last traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Man, let us have the courage to walk down the path that not many people walk down. Somewhere along the way, we started believing that what we couldn't see was reality, or not reality, that it wasn't happening. But can I just say, God moves in the unknown, in the hidden places, and in the wilderness moments. Don't abandon the promise. Don't trade trust for control. And don't choose the path that feels safest. Choose the one that requires trust in the Lord. Do you know how I know that some of us deal with this? Because we sang a song about hope tonight. It's okay. And then we believe that He could do everything, that He's going to come through, He's going to do it. And we stand there and we're like, yeah, that's some good words. But there's something that takes place when it's really rooted inside of us. That when you sing a song like that you can't help but jump, shout, scream, and be like, man, there is a love. There is a love that I don't understand. That goes past my performance, goes past my trying, goes past me trying to be perfect, and it loves me wherever I'm at. I want to say this, and then I feel like we're going to sing that song that we finished with. We're going to sing it one more time. Last weekend, I got the privilege of getting to speak at the Young Saints Conference that our youth attended. And they asked me to teach a dance class, except they didn't tell the kids that it was going to be a dance class. If you can imagine, that went real well. And it started off with the kids looking at me like I was the craziest person alive, with their arms crossed, and like, you're not making me dance. And so out of fear, I was like, oh man, chunk everything that I had planned. And I started talking about the power of Jericho and walking. That's it. We're going to go to walking because I know I can't get these kids to dance. So we start walking around the room, and I say, hey, just intentionally just find someone that God's highlighting, and I just want you to pause, and I just want you to stand next to them when you feel that. And then walk. There's not a lot of buy-in to that, right? Like, it doesn't take a lot. And you start to see the heaviness break off these kids. And by the end of it, by only the grace of God, every one of those kids in the room were worshiping and moving and dancing like what you would see in the Bible of David dancing undignified. And what was crazy is that it was being led by the guys in the room. The guys stood at the edge of the stage and they were just dancing like they didn't care. And the freedom that came out of that place, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the next generation. These men are willing to not care what the girls think in the back of the room, and they're willing to just dance before him. There is a freedom that's coming out of this next generation, and they're going to come through these doors. And if they meet a God that's performance-based, they're going to leave right after. It's our responsibility to break that off of us and say, no longer am I going to live performance-based. No longer am I going to live in fear that God's promise is too long for me to wait. Because there is a generation that wants to meet the God that covers all.